Yo, what's up? Welcome to another video. In this video, what we're gonna go over is really, this video is for you if you are done with lines, strategies, done with all this stuff that you hear online. And if you're just a guy who's kind of like lost in all of this, maybe even with strategies and tactics and holding frame and all that, maybe you even got some success. Maybe you have a decent dating life, you're getting the results, but you're missing something because it feels to you that this is not authentic, that what you're building isn't real and what you're building isn't sustainable. And we're going to go very much in depth in this video. First, I'm going to explain to you why this actually works, the strategy, why they works, but then also what it does to you if you start using them in the long term. And then what's going to happen if you continue using them and you don't change. Then I'm not just going to leave you in the dust like that. Also, I'm going to explain to you exactly how you can get from the point where you are now, where maybe you do not have any experience. Maybe you're lucky, like you're not fucked up by all the lines, strategies, and tactics yet. Maybe you're at the point where you are like, okay, no, I have done the lines, I've done the strategies, I know what I'm doing, I have the knowledge, and it's been working, but I want to build something real. Then I will also explain to you how to do that, how to move away from this persona that you built. I'll explain a little bit about that later, and move into true, authentic, fulfilling relationships. So let's jump in. First, the strategies, the lines, the tactics, they work. They work really, really well. If you just in your head have a couple of stories that you can tell, if you have a couple of lines that you can always use, a couple of teases that you love to use that always have the good effect, it works, dude. I'm not telling you to never use them again and always be, no, I'm not saying that at all. But if you depend on them, that's where the problems start. Now, why do they work? Like, let's start there. Why do they work? Let's take, for example, a story. If you tell a story and you've told it a lot of times, and this story is like either really funny or it's vulnerable or it's bringing up emotions or it's like dramatic. You've told this 1,000 times and you know it's gonna work. You know people are gonna feel things, right? But the problem is that if you keep doing that, if you keep doing that, if you keep doing that, and you depend on it, then we have a problem. But why does it work? Because it does stir up emotions. And most guys, when they just start out, that's their biggest huddle, like their biggest challenge to really stir up emotions. For example, another example, if you do like a tease line, for let's say she says something and you look at her, you're like, that must be the stupidest thing that I've heard all week. Thank you. I enjoyed that. It's funny and it works because you're pushing her away, you're busting her balls, you're showing her that you do not give a fuck, and she's like, what the fuck did this guy just say? Nobody treats me like that. Everyone is always nice. So that's the reason why it works. So that's also why I'm saying don't completely move away from it. If it works, it works. Now let's move on to the second part of this. The problem with it. The problem is that most of you came from a place where you didn't have success with women. Now you learn these lines and now you have success with women. So you start thinking, oh, it's the lines. Oh, it's the story. Oh, it's the shirt. Now you start putting the value on that instead of on you. You're the one telling the story. And if that happens enough, now you become dependent on these stories, on these lines, and you keep using them, and it feels empty because you've done it a million times. And what you don't understand is that this line, it works for a reason. Because underneath the line, there's a principle. There is a principle of pushing someone away, having fun, teasing someone. So if you started to let go of the lines, now you can start studying the principles. So now at least you're a level deeper. But then still you're not at your authentic core. But we'll move on to that later. For now, I want you to understand that the problem really is if you start depending on these lines, on these strategies, what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to build long-term relationships. That's one, because your lines, at a certain point, you're like, fuck, I don't have any lines anymore. And then the real you comes out. So that's one. The second problem that you're going to find if you depend on lines and strategies and all of that is you're going to move away from your core. You're going to feel inauthentic. You know that what you're doing, it's an act. It's something you do. It's not something that you are. And the more you do that, the more you move away from your core. The more you move into this new, and here we go, persona. What is a persona? A persona is a mask, a front that you have created. It is someone that you would like to be, someone that you show everyone in the world that that is you, that's your persona. So you can have a persona when you're with girls, like, oh, I'm the witty guy, I do the funny thing, like I do the tricks, I do the lines. Now that's becoming your persona. And your persona is very far from your core. It's part of it, but it's far from it as well. So now let's move on to what this is actually realistically costing you. Because if you really think about it, if you've been living your life until now like this, you use the lines, you use the strategies, and it's been working or not, what do you think is going to happen if you keep doing this for a year? You keep repeating the same lines, the same jokes, the same tricks. You're still playing the same game. And sure, you might get results there and there, but what's going to happen to you internally? Are you going to feel fulfilled? Or do you feel that you're going to feel more inauthentic, more away from your core? Do you feel that you will have more superficial, meaningless relationships? Let's say you do it for the next 5 years, dude. 5 years, same tricks, same. Where did you go? What happened in the past 5 years? Did you actually live? Did you actually enjoy all these experiences that you have? Or were you continuously in performing mode that you feel fake and that you feel that at any given time she could say, huh, I knew it, you're faking. So that's really the cost of this. The cost is that you're not building anything authentic and you're moving away from your core. The longer you move away from your core, the more difficult it's going to be to move back to it. Let's talk about that. Now that we have a good understanding of what it all is, how to move forward. The only way to become more authentic is to be authentic about your inauthenticities. I remember this is a lesson that they taught me in a coaching that I did years ago, one of my first coaching actually. And they taught me this and they said like, so now we want you to share something what you're inauthentic about. And firstly I was like, oh yeah, I care. I always act like I care, like I don't care about what people think about me, but in reality I care. And I sat down, I was like, no, pretty easy. Because I didn't feel that one. That didn't hurt me. But at that point I was in a relationship and I knew that this relationship was temporary. I knew it was gonna end. I didn't know when, but I knew it. And we didn't ever talk about that. It was like an unspoken thing where I knew it and, you know. And I sit down and I'm like, fuck, I think that I should say that one. Oh, but it hurts. I don't even want to admit that to myself. So I'm thinking, and then I realized like, yo, there's so much pain here. This is my inauthenticity. This is what I should open up about. This is what I should say. I got up, I told everyone in the group, like, yo, I always act like me and my girlfriend are gonna be together for the rest of our lives, but deep down inside, I know that we're not. And I start crying. I'm like, fuck. But that was me being genuinely authentic, really coming to my core, to what it is that I truly feel, in who it is that I am, and opening up about it, being vulnerable about it, being confident about it. That changed my life, because by admitting this to myself, now I admitted to her, our relationship evolved, eventually we broke up, and that changed the complete course of my life. And in a good way, because in my core I could feel that that was what was supposed to happen. So to come back to you, the only way to be more authentic is to be authentic about your inauthenticities. So whenever you feel like, okay, I'm faking or something is going on or whatever, I want you, and of course, don't first day immediately trauma bond, I'm vulnerable. That doesn't work. There's balance, right? But as soon as you build vibe, as soon as everything is going pretty well and you have a solid connection, then I do invite you to actually check in with what it is that you're feeling, actually check in with yourself, like what am I doing, what am I feeling, and then opening up about that. Does that mean you're gonna have to sit there and cry on the first date? No. But it could mean a couple of things. It could mean you sharing a story about the past that maybe you're not so proud of. It could be you sharing a story about the past where you got really hurt. It could be you sharing a story about, it could be you sharing something in the moment. It could be you saying to her, like, oh, I don't know, but what you just said, like, in a weird way, I feel a lot of shame right now. I don't know. Could be anything. I'm just making up shit because I don't know what's happening inside of you. You do. So the only way for you to build genuine, authentic relationships is to be authentic about your inauthenticities. That's the only way, and that requires true courage. But at the same time, that is something that is so rare in these days. You'll find it nowhere. You will not be competing with other men. I want you to understand that. You're not competing with other men. Because other men, they compete on wittiness, smartness, looks, money, status. You don't compete on that level. You're not a 7 out of 10. You're a 1 out of motherfucking 1. Because you're authentic about who it is that you are and you don't give a fuck and you share. That is why this stuff works so well. So there you have. It's a strategy in and of itself, but this strategy, it's not really a strategy at the same time, if you get me. Because this strategy comes from your core. And here you're not strategizing, you're just expressing what it is that's really going on inside of you. And some girls will absolutely love that. They will fall deeply in love with you. For you. Not even you doing the lines and the tricks. They fall in love with you. Just for who you are. Isn't that fucking wild? And some chicks, some girls, they don't vibe with you. And you know what? That is totally fine. That's totally okay. So start being authentic about your inauthenticities and watch how your relationships and your dating life is going to completely transform. As always, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe. If you have any questions, comment them below because I will take a look at the questions, and if I get a question multiple times, I'll make a video about that question. If not, I'll just answer it in the comments. So, see you guys next time.